Well, I'm so excited to have my friend who I got to meet in real life last year, which is so exciting. Monica Swanson, boy mom, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So, you have this new book that is very much like a sister book to my book, Parents Rising. So,
Mhm.
my parents' book, Parents Rising, says 8 strategies for raising kids who love God, respect authority, and value what's right.
Mhm.
And your new book, Raising Amazing, says bringing up kids who love God, like their family, and do the dishes without being asked. So I'm like,
Yes.
this is awesome. This
Yes.
is,
If books could
this
hang out,
is,
our books would totally hang out.
they would be like, we get each other.
Yes.
Like, it would be
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
So I just want to start with because you have 4 sons.
Mm.
And many of your sons have done quite amazing things,
Mhm.
so and I'm sure your boys get sick of this, like, "Yes, we know Luke surfs." So you have one boy that is a surfer,
Uh-huh.
and when he was 10 years old, he
Mm.
told you, like, "Mom, I wanna be a world champion
Mm.
surfer." So, when your 10-year-old says to you, "Mom, I wanna be a world champion surfer," what did you say back to him?
Yeah, I said, "I believe you can be. Let's do it."
And, now tell us, give us a little update on your
Yes.
ten-year-old dreamer.
Yes, well, he's 18, and last summer he did win the, ISA Junior World Championships, which he would say, "Okay, I'm still not there yet. I wanna win, like, the real pro world champs." But I say, "For juniors, that's pretty good." So, we're pretty stoked.
Pretty amazing. That's right.
Yes.
And what I love about you and your family and your book is, yes, one of your mottos is go big or go home.
Yeah.
But this book is not about getting
Mhm.
trophies.
Mm-mm.
This book is not about setting records.
Mhm.
This book is not about making $1 million before you're
Mhm.
30 years old. That's not what this
Mhm.
book is about.
Mm.
Kind of redirect us how you can aim for big things, but that's not really the aim in your family.
Yes. Oh, I love that you said that because I think you and I agree that it really begins with the heart. And, big things can happen, but that's certainly not the goal. Sometimes that's a byproduct, but I also know that sometimes a life set apart for God's use is a quiet life. Sometimes it's a very humble life, but so fulfilling. And so we've just really aimed to raise kids who have hearts that know and love God, um, character rich lives. And then whatever that ends up looking like is fine with us because really everything else falls into place when you start with the most important things.
That's so true. There's one quote in your book by William Doherty that says, "The forces pulling on our families are too strong in the modern world.
Mhm.
Ultimately, we must decide either to steer or to
Mm.
go where the river takes us."
Mhm.
And so much of parenting is you have to be intentional. You can't just be reactionary, or else
Yeah.
someone else is going to parent your kids and it's not going to be you. It's going to be YouTube. It's going to be a
Mhm.
teacher. It's going to be a
Yeah.
friend. So kind
Yeah.
of talk about if someone's realizing, oh, wait, this doesn't happen by chance. I have to
Right.
be intentional as a parent. What might those first steps look like?
Oh, I love that question. And I do think, to give a lot of grace, I know plenty of people, who are raising kids now who maybe grew up in a time where maybe their parents weren't super intentional, but because the culture they were in, the people around them, things kind of worked out okay. And they're like,
Yeah.
do I really need to be that intentional? And I just can't help but tell people I just think our world has changed enough that it is
Mm,
more essential than ever that yes, we are intentional because I
yeah.
just think the stakes have gotten higher. I think that current of culture has just gotten swifter and stronger. And we do not want our kids to end up where that current will take them. And so, to anyone who thinks, well, maybe I can just be laid back and, we like to know that God is sovereign, yes, but He calls us to such a high calling. We have such a privilege and a responsibility to raise these kids, to pour into them the very best we have, because He's given them parents and He's chosen us to be our own children's parents. And so, yeah, I just think that this is a time we can't be sleepy, we can't be lazy, we need to be on our game. So I just love to encourage parents to do that. So I guess you're
Mhm,
you're asking first steps. I think first steps are between us and the Lord, just sitting before Him and
mhm.
saying, What is this? What are you calling me to right now in this season?" Maybe your kids
Yeah.
are toddlers and it's just starting to introduce them to scripture. Maybe they're teenagers and you need to have some conversations with them. Maybe own some areas that you haven't been intentional. Maybe they're hitting those tween years and you're like, "Oh, I thought this is where I gave them more freedoms, but maybe not. Maybe I need to actually lean in and set some boundaries for them. So I think just talking to the Lord and asking Him right now, what are you calling me to, is the very first step.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Amazing kids grow out of amazing families, and amazing families don't happen by chance, and that's
Yeah.
what your book,
Mhm.
really, really champions.
Mm.
I wanna talk just a little bit about technology because you
Mm.
have, 4 boys, 3 of
Mhm.
them are, 18 and older, but
Mhm.
how have you, embraced technology? How have you put brakes on technology? What does that kind of look like?
Oh, goodness. Well, I need to keep learning from you in this because I think we all need to humbly acknowledge that none of us are really experts because this is so new
Yeah.
for all of us and constantly changing. So I think probably the most important thing for us has just been to have eyes wide open and to not be in
Mhm.
denial. Again, not to stick our head in the sand and just hope
Yeah.
everything's going to work out. I don't think we've done everything perfect in this. I think my 12-year-old, it's still probably our biggest battle is get off the screen. So trying to come up with rhythms and routines and kind of just some boundaries where, yes, you can use technology. There's some really good stuff there. Certainly, he's learning piano by using an app on an iPad.
Mhm.
There's a lot of good stuff that we want to tune into, but we also have to stay on our game. And unfortunately, it's not a one time set a rule and then walk
Yeah,
away. It's a daily be
it's
involved.
constant. Yeah.
Constant, yeah. So, I'm still learning, and I'm gonna keep learning. I think that we all need to tune into the people who are doing the most research and listen and learn and grow together.
Yeah. I ask you because as you look at your boys, they're all involved in different sports. They're well-rounded. I've read some
Mhm.
of the things that they've posted. They're thinkers, they're
Yeah,
creators. They're not
yeah.
just standing by. They're amazing boys.
Mhm,
So
thank
I
you.
know that they had this input from you and it wasn't just, they didn't learn all this on YouTube. I know that.
That's right.
I want to talk about family culture. What is it and how do you
Mm.
build it?
Yes. Well, you shared that quote from my book where I talk about amazing kids coming from amazing families. And I think it's really exciting, really, to think that we, as the parents, really get to set the tone in our home. What kind of culture do we want to raise our kids in? And I have to acknowledge again, there's so much grace in parenting. Thanks to God, there is grace. But I think
Yeah.
often we get married, we have kids, we're working jobs, life is like cruising by and all of a sudden we're like, who even are we? Like, what are we all about? And so I just encourage families, especially if your kids are young, to slow down and decide what do we want to be about? And we didn't write our first family mission statement until my oldest son was home from college for his first holiday break. So I'm living proof that it doesn't have to happen early. But I do think that we are setting a culture in our homes, whether we realize it or not. Kids are taking note. They're seeing how we live our lives, where we spend our time and our money and our attention. And so, why not be intentional about it? And if that means gathering the family and sitting down and writing a list of values,
Mhm.
what do you want our family to be about? Let the kids give some input there. Writing a family mission statement is a great idea, but you don't have to do it. But just being aware that there is a culture there. And when the kids are grown, what I love is now that I do have adult sons, to know that when they come home, there's certain things they associate home with. And when they were young, we were building those things. And still my 12-year-old, I get to pour into him and this family and decide what is our family culture. And I just think it's a beautiful opportunity that we should all take great advantage of. And yes, we want the spiritual culture, we want the biblical culture, but also God makes us all unique. Some families are
Mhm.
very musically oriented. Some families are adventure oriented. Some families are big readers. So think about that and have some fun crafting your family culture.